7. Okay, the next is on the Giants here. Listen, folks, the Giants made so many good moves. After I did a deep dive into their offseason acquisitions, I am absolutely, I don't think I'm being hyperbolic here. I'm the most impressed with their offseason moves of any team in the NFC East. And I was very impressed with some of the moves Cowboys done other than that coordinator. And, of course, what the Eagles done, but doing addition and subtraction there. But let me talk about this Giants team. Much more impressed than what I even expected. Although I knew some of this, we talked about some of this stuff on the program going back to draft night. And, of course, the offseason with them hiring of John Harbaugh there, a Super Bowl winning coach, bringing him in and his new coaching staff here to coach this team up. But listen, folks, they had a good offseason in free agency as well, not just adding players like Isaiah Likely. They had a linebacker, Tremaine Edmonds here. Darnell Mooney at wide receiver. I know they lost Wardell Robertson to Tennessee in free agency. Mooney, one of the more underrated players there. But you've got a guy like Isaiah Likely to pair him with Theo Johnson here, the other tight end. I love that tandem they got set up there already here. And you add the fact that they actually traded that they actually got a high first-round pick for Derek. I mean, a number 10 pick overall for Dexter Lawrence there, and being able to take a guy like a Arvell Reese there with that fifth pick there. Arguably, some would say he was the best player in this draft. Okay? So you start to look at all this, and the fact that with that 10th pick, they end up taking this tackle here. Let me make sure I got his name right. I don't know why I cannot get this guy's name right each time that I take him. But, yeah. Francisco Mayoga. He was arguably the best tackle in the draft. They get him all the way down to 10th. He's a total wall from Miami. He can play right. They've got him listed as a guard right now. So they've actually brought in some some help there. Francis Mayoga here. But, so you've added that depth there on the offensive line. You're going to give the quarterback here. You're going to give the quarterback here a lot more room here. Jackson Dart here to throw the football. He's going to have time on his hands. They're going to be able to run the ball at ease. Scatterboo's back. There's no hints of him being injured anymore. Malik Neighbors is back on a limited basis, but he's back. You look at that offensive line. You look at the additions that they've added on that offensive line, and the fact that their defense per se. So let me go ahead and read some of these players here on this defensive side of the ball. Okay, I know they lost Dexter Lawrence at the defensive tackle, but I do like the fact that they brought in Shelby Harris, DJ Reader there. And listen, Abdul Carter had some maturity issues early on. Started to see him settle in at the end of last season there. I think players make their biggest jump from year 1 to year 2. He's going to start to play like that top dog that was looked at by a lot of prognosticators as the best player in the 2024 draft, okay? So you start to see Abdul Carter. I think he's going to settle in and play really well. You start to see a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau settle in, play really well. He's on a contract year, playing for a new contract. Then you've got a guy like Brian Burns, who's already played well, very consistent. That's the guys you can move in and around throughout your defensive line there, okay? Not to mention the fact that you got a phenomenal player at Arvell Reese that they took with that 5th pick. He's going to be able to play out in coverage. He's going to play on either side of the end. He's going to be what you call like an ambidextrous type of player. You can play him on the right side. You can play him on the left side. Someone that can use both hands, ambidextrous. Some of you don't know what that word means, but you're going to be able to move these guys around here. And I do think, and listen, even if Shelby Harris, and I know these guys, Harris and DJ Ritter at defensive tackle, I know that they are older players. If they don't seem to have what they're looking at, what the Giants like, I could see the Giants being aggressive and going out and getting a guy like a Vita, who is very he's got some issues with his contract down in Tampa. This guy's a big run-stopping machine. If they can make the right deal, because you've got your quarterback on a rookie contract, they might make that move, okay? Lawrence said he just simply didn't want to listen, okay? So they moved him on to Cincinnati, okay? So now if you bring in a guy like a Vita, and I don't know if they'll do that. They might. This could be a very good defense, okay? And not to mention that they've added safety Javon Holland here. Very good player out of Miami. Nobody's really thinking about him. So, you've got a lot of moving parts here on this team. Now, I'm not in love with their defensive coordinator there. That is the former Titan, Denard Wilson, former Titans defensive coordinator. Titans were about 15th against the run. They had some missed tackles last year. Not in love with him, just like I was in love with Parker there at Philadelphia. But he will be an upgrade on that side of the ball, per se. Yeah, they were 29th last year in total defense. But you're looking at some of the this could be a Seattle type of deal. I do think that they'll make a big jump this year. They will be comparable to last year's Seattle defense. I do think they'll be that good. And I like that extra depth that they've added on their offensive line. I really do. I'm telling you, this Giants team has a lot of moving parts. And listen, they lost a lot of close games last year. Remember last year when they went up to Philadelphia and beat them 34-17 at home on that Thursday night game? Okay. They came back strong at the very end. They beat the Raiders 34-10, and they beat Dallas 34-17 at the very end. You're starting to see Dart settle down. Now under Harbaugh, he's going to be way settled down because he's going to have a much better line, and the defense is going to be that much more better. So, like I said, a lot of big additions, a lot of young players. They've got, I want to say they have, 3 top 5 players on defense, on their defensive line that were selected in the top 5 in the NFL draft there, if I'm not mistaken. I know the top 10. I want to say Thibodeau was drafted pretty high as well. He's going to have a lot to prove. So this is going to be a good team on both sides of the ball. Remember they had Denver on the ropes? Players take their biggest leap from year 1 to year 2. So I've got this team. Listen, I got to win an opening week against Dallas. I've got the New York Giants going 11.